Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast, to the YouTube channel. I am so glad that you are back here. Today, I want to talk to you guys about one of my favorite questions that I love to use in my coaching that I think is going to be so powerful for you to also put into your little tool belt to help you dig in, navigate, and also become more of the person that you want to be. I mean, who doesn't want that? That's the whole purpose of us being here on this earth, right? So, to start this conversation, though, I want to help you guys understand the difference between our heart and our mind. Our mind is very, very powerful. It's an amazing thing, right? However, when we let it lead, it can sometimes do it from a place of fear. It can do it from a place of um, trying to feel good very, very quickly. And I think it also can keep us in this competition comparison place. It doesn't have our best interests at heart all of the time. It's just trying to do, trying to keep us safe. However, there's this other part that we are trying to drop into more, which is our true selves. And I tend to believe this is the things that the gospel of Chantel, I guess you could say, is that when we are accessing our heart, we are accessing our true self. That is where our spirit is, that's where our emotions are. But our true self is this constant vibration, this constant emotion of love. Who we really are is truly love. We just forget that because there's just, the mind can cloud us of that. It can cloud us with worry and fear and judgment and kind of all of those things. But when we can access it, it vibrates at this beautiful place of love. And I kind of spoke to this a couple of weeks ago when I was mentioning how I was coaching with my coach back in October. And he asked me that question of like, can you drop into your heart and see what it offers up to you? And how powerful that was because I was so stuck in this how place of like, how do I get this figured out? And I was in so much overwhelm. And when he had me do this simple exercise of just dropping into my heart, my true self, it became clear. I didn't necessarily get all of the answers, but it took the pressure off. And so who doesn't want more of that? Who doesn't want to make things more simple? What I often find is when we are in our brain, and I'm going to say, just for the sake of this conversation here, it's not like a state of being, but I want to just kind of refer to our brain as kind of like the ego, just for a little bit. I know there's different parts of our brain. There's the subconscious, there's the analytical. I understand that. But just for the sake of this conversation, I want to kind of refer to our brain as the ego. The ego is kind of in this win-lose place. If you win, then I don't. Or I need to control you so that I feel better, which may come at the effect of myself. And so this ego operates from kind of what I said before, a lot of fear. And it asks a lot of these open-ended, unuseful questions to ourselves of like, why is this happening to me? Why is this so hard? It lots of dead-end questions that don't lead us to anywhere. And they oftentimes leave us stuck and overwhelmed. However, when we can drop into our heart, which is the goal, right? To drop into who we really want to be, we can find that that's the win-win of our situations. It can be because we're not saying it's at the effect of anybody else that we make decisions, but it's more of like when I'm accessing who I really am, my true self, a place of love, then answers and decisions become so much more simple. And so I want to tell you guys this question that I think is very, very powerful. Like I said, the ego likes to lots of questions that it offers up are those dead-ended questions. I think questions can be very, very powerful if we have the right intention behind them. If we have the intention of trying to dig in and be open and curious, they can be very powerful. But our ego mind tends to offer up lots of questions that are dead-ended. And so this is a question that I want to offer to you guys as a powerful one that can, if when we use it, help us to tap in, be aligned with who we really want to be. And that question is what would love do? So if you think about what I was saying before, your true self is this vibration of love. When we are saying what would love do, it's also kind of saying what would your true self do? What would the higher you, the bigger you, any of those kind of words that resonate for you? What would that version of you do? What would love do in this situation? I was thinking about this the other day of I've been kind of getting back into the game of Instagram and also I've got a new group, CCP, that we're diving into. Is so fun, by the way. I'm loving having so many of you guys in there, and you guys can still join if you want to. We had a powerful coaching call actually this morning, diving into actually some of the stuff that we're talking about here on the podcast today. But I was thinking about this because I'm trying to do things in a new way in my business. And my ego very quickly wants to come online and say things like, well, why isn't this working? Why aren't you getting the likes that you want on the reels or whatever? and it wants me to keep moving. It wants me to keep hustling, and it doesn't want me to stop. And so I find that when I'm letting the ego dictate, it's coming from a lot of fear, it's coming from a lot of pressure, it's coming from a lot of proving myself. And it has me doing things at the expense of myself. I will have set times in my calendar of like, okay, you're going to work on Instagram from this time to this time. But when my ego is operating, it wants me to push beyond that. It doesn't want me to rest. It doesn't want me to move on to something else. It's like, no, 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 no. You need to stay here. You need to do this longer. And so I practiced this the other day because I was starting to feel a lot of overwhelm. I was feeling a lot of frustration because it doesn't matter how much I do. You guys know this. It doesn't solve for what's going on inside. And so I wanted to try this question that I've been using on my clients, that I've actually been using on myself, but I wanted to use it in this situation. And so I asked myself, okay, my ego is telling me, hey, keep moving, keep doing, keep pushing, try another thing, schedule out your whole calendar. And I wanted to drop in and ask myself this question of what would love do in this situation? So I took a second, I breathed, I dropped in, and I let myself just feel my heart, feel my true self. And this is a practice. This is a skill that I'm still working on. So it's not, I know our brains are, it can get in the way of us doing this. But when I drop in, it was very interesting to me to hear, not even hear, but just to feel it, just like stop. Love means stopping. Love means turning off my computer. Love means going and resting for a little bit. That is what love says to me in that moment. And it's interesting when the more I listen to that love, the more that I ask that question, the more trust I'm having with myself that I will do what I say I'm going to do, but I'm also taking better care of myself. Love is our true self. Love has our best interest at heart. Another situation that I was thinking about is I was talking to my daughter. She went to a Valentine dance actually last night, which is so cute. And she's in middle school. So it was kind of her first, not her first, but it's her first year of these big dances like this. And she was super nervous. She was super nervous to go. And I totally get it. The little jitters that you have when you're going to a first time dance, you don't know if you're going to get asked and you don't know if people are going to make fun of your outfit. And I mean, she was all worried, right, about all of the different things. And I was joking with her. I was like, you know what? You just need to be the goofy version of yourself. And she had mentioned to me that she had gotten a couple comments. And this girl, if you guys have seen my Instagram or some of my videos, this girl is full of life. She does, like, if you could look back on some of my pictures, I encourage you guys to go do this for my own selfish sake, because I just adore it. But since she was a baby, I mean, she has the personality that is just, oh, it's so good. But she hip hops in every one of her pictures. She always is doing these dance moves. I mean, she is just a crack up. And we will go to basketball games, we will go to volleyball games, and she will be that one up in the stands. They'll turn on, those little snippets of songs for a little bit. She will be rocking out, like no shame, no guilt, just letting her go. And I've always said it for a long time. I'm like, I hope she does this forever, because I just know it's natural for kids to start to second guess themselves. Well, this year has been the year she's kind of second guessed herself. She was, I guess, at a volleyball game a couple months ago. She was doing it on the sidelines, and I even videotaped it. And I was like, this is so dang cute. 7th grade, and still just like getting into the music, having a good time. And she was told by one of the other girls that she was with that she was embarrassing and that she shouldn't do that. And if she was going to do that, this other girl couldn't stand with her. And as you can imagine, that just broke her heart. And so she's been dumbing herself down, trying to be what everybody else wants her to be. And I've noticed it's been at the effect of her betraying herself, because her true self is just loves life, loves to do things in a crazy, funny way. But as kids grow, they start to second guess that. The ego wants to come online and say, like, you need to do things like everybody else because you're going to be left out of the pack. And so she kind of brought that up last night, because I was telling her, giving her some of my own dance moves. I was, joking around with her of like the sprinkler and all those kind of things. And I was telling her, like, you just need to go in the middle of the dance floor and just dance. And I was like, I'm sure everybody else will do it. And I could see her get super somber and say, like, you know what? No, I can't do that. People are going to make fun of me. No one's going to want to stand with me. And, my mama heart just melted and broke for her. And in this moment, because I knew I was going to record this podcast, I kind of asked her and I said, you know what, Brielle? Well, I just told her name. Don't tell her I'm talking about her. But my kids all hate it, but I mean it in the best way. Anyways, I told her, I said, you know what would love do in that situation? And of course, she looked at me all perplexed, like, what? I said, like, what does your true self want? And I said, love for everybody else, but most importantly, love for you. Not that you are, I don't care. Actually, I do. I do mean you don't care what anybody else thinks, but what does love say? And she very quickly was just like, I would just dance. And I just told her, like, yeah, you just got to dance. And while she was there, and it's interesting, like, notice she was able to quickly come back to what was true to her. True to her was just dancing and having a good time. And I know it's simple. Like sometimes we're like, oh yeah, that's what I need to do. But the action, that sometimes is the hard thing to put into place, right? Is the willingness to follow through with what our heart says to do. Because that sometimes can require us to do some grieving too, if it means letting go of a relationship in some way. But I even got a text from her in the middle of it. She's like, Mom, this isn't working. This is too hard. People are not talking to me. And again, mama heart, just melting, just breaking. Is thinking of her being all alone. And there was part of me that at one point was like, maybe I should just go pick her up. But at the end, I went and picked her up and she had the best time because she finally stopped looking for the other girls to give her permission. She tried that for a little bit, would follow them around and they would not give her the time of day. And I'm so glad she kind of realized, like, look, you dumbing yourself down isn't making you any more acceptable to them. But she finally just gave in and started letting herself dance. And she told me afterwards, I was like, Mom, it was so much fun. I had 17 boys ask me to dance. I was like, really? That's so fun. She's like, yeah. And they would tell me to go ask this other person. And we were all dancing together. And I said, were you with any girls? And she's like, no, it was just all boys. And I'm like, interesting. Anyways, that's another whole thought process. But when she let herself just love, access love and be where she was able to be herself and to also be with the people that would accept her in that way. And it's a practice that we have to be in, being able to, you know, first off, drop into what's true for us. And sometimes it doesn't come as a simple answer. Maybe love says you'll know when you get there. Sometimes we're so bought into like, I need to know the answer. But maybe when you drop in, it might be like, love says, stop worrying. Love says, you'll know when you get there. Trust yourself. Love says, you don't need to know. Like there could be some other things that happen, but we got to build this muscle and this trust of aligning with who we are. So I want to give you guys just a couple of things for you guys to try and access to get more in touch with your true self, more in touch with with this question, right? Because I want you guys to lead more by this question. If you have a relationship, if you have a situation, if you have a decision that you're trying to make, playing around with this question of like, what would love do in this situation? I think you'll find that not that your life is going to completely change, but you're going to be more in tune with who you are. And you might find the direction that your life needs to go will completely change because you are not betraying yourself anymore. And again, I'm not saying accessing this love doesn't mean there's not going to be negative emotion. There is. Like even my daughter doing this at the dance last night, that required her to feel courageous or to do things in a new way, or also grieve these girls not, taking her in that moment. It doesn't mean it's going to be positive all the time, but this love means that you're accessing more of your true self, right? So one of the things I would say is we want to become more present with ourselves, to practice being in the moment, because the only way that we can access our heart is we got to know where we are currently starting. It's kind of like that GPS, right? And so the way that you can do that is to practice getting more into the moment. And one of the things that I always tell my clients is, especially when they're trying to get more in tune with that neck below, is to turn on a timer, turn on different timers throughout the day and find out what is the feeling that you're having. And just let yourself get into this moment. And then remind yourself that, love is always available to you, always. Sometimes we just don't want to feel it, and that's totally fine too. But love is always available to us. So maybe you set the alarm for, let's say, 10:47, and it goes off and you check in. You're like, you know what? I'm feeling frustrated right now. Can you let yourself just be present, be with frustration, and then just access love at the same time? What would love say to you about this frustration? And I honestly, more often than not, I think love will just say, like, it's okay. Feel frustration. It's not a problem. The ego wants to fix it, right? Wants to get out of it, wants to get to the other side of it. Love will say, like, trust yourself. Frustration is not a problem. We don't even need to think through it. Just feel it. The other thing is, I would say, is to practice more meditation. If we want to know more about our heart, we got to give it space to be able to speak, and not speak in the same way that our ego does, but just we got to be in a space to be able to receive it. So meditation, sitting in silence, I've talked about it before, is a very powerful way for us to do that. And I love to do an hour of silence. I'm working on doing 2 hours of silence this year, which is just crazy. But I love to give myself the space to just access more of what my heart says. And I will find, I was actually just talking about this on my CCP group because we're going to be doing a meditation call on Monday, which is just so fun. I'm so excited to be doing that with them. But I was telling them that usually when you start off a meditation, at least in my experience, this is not for everybody, the doer in me comes out strong. The doer in me with the ego, right? The ego wants a job still. So when I'm sitting in silence, the doer of like, hey, you need to remember this. Hey, you should be doing this. Hey, like it likes to throw out this to-do list items to me. And so I know that. I plan for that. So like the first 15, 20 minutes, it's just my doer, my ego mind just going frantic because it doesn't like us sitting in silence. It does not like us trying to access more of our true self. And so this meditation helps us to get past that. Again, I'm not having an agenda as to how long that takes, but get past that and drop into my heart, drop into that love. And it's crazy how different of an experience my meditations have been as I do more of that dropping in. Another thing that I would encourage you guys to do if you're going to practice doing this is to really pay attention to your breath. This is a great way for us also to become present again. Again, if you're new to this, set an alarm. Set an alarm to do intentional breathing. There is a difference. We're breathing all of the time. We're thinking all the time. We're feeling all of the time. But setting an intention, slowing down, and really paying attention to your breath can feel amazing. And it can help us get back in tune with ourselves. Okay. And then just do something creative. I think it's so powerful for us to have little outlets like that. It's something I have forgotten to do for a long time, but I love sketching. Sketching is one of my things that I used to do all of the time. And I want to get back to it. That's part of the true self. My ego has stopped me from doing some of these things. Piano is another big one that even my family's like, Mom, can you play the piano? And my ego's like, no, you don't have time. But my true self, I think, yearns for that, is wanting that. We got to learn to be ourselves, be okay with ourselves. We are all unique. We are all meant to be here for, being exactly who we are. And sometimes our ego clouds us from remembering that. And I really do believe our true self knows and has our best interest at heart. So think about a situation, think about a relationship that maybe you're struggling with, think about an emotion that you're struggling with, and just apply this question. What would love do in this situation? And see what becomes different. Slow down, feel your breath, feel your body, feel your heart, and just notice. And notice the ego because it's going to still be there. Love it, validate it, but then keep dropping back into that true self, to that love, and see what answers come. See how your experience changes when we just access more love. So practice that. See if you can live by it. Something that I'm practicing more and more is like, what would love do in this situation? And again, action needs to come after we do that, but it's just practicing dropping into that heart more and more. So go practice it. Let me know how it goes. And hey, if you want to join CCP, come learn how to meditate. The doors are still open. We'd love to have you in the group. You guys can sign up below and join us on Monday. It'd be a great time for you to practice dropping into your hearts because that's what we need more of, is being who our true selves are, love. All right, you guys, I will talk to you guys next week.